Hello and good evening all. Thank you for joining us this evening for another installment of 5 Cars That, where tonight we have a bit of an inverse subject to our last video, and we're going to take a look at 5 concept cars that, in my opinion, would have been fantastic to see at Le Mans. I'm Lensler, your host and narrator and researcher and editor and everything else because we don't have the budget for anything else. There's no particular order for this video, although I did start with the least race-ready car and end with the most race-ready, so that's something, but don't look for additional meaning in the order beyond that. There is also a separate video of 5 American concepts that should have gone to Le Mans as well, so that's why this video is going to be a bit more continentally focused. Let's get started with the Audi Avus Quattro. Audi has never been one to shy away from doing things differently. Back in the auto union days, their Grand Prix cars were mid-engined, well before that became trendy in the late 50s and early 60s. Then, later, the Quattro revolutionized the world of rallying with all-wheel drive. And of course, they were then later the first manufacturer to successfully bring diesel power to Le Mans. But in the late 80s, they were in a bit of a funk with their contemporary model lineup, generally perceived to be on the dowdy side, and as a result, sales were dropping. With the coming of the 90s and the new millennium on the horizon, they were working on repositioning the marque to compete more directly with Mercedes and BMW while maintaining their slightly more sporty image. Not sure that you could really consider them to be more sporty than BMW, but that's the branding exercise that we don't really want to get into. Anyway, to wow the motor show circuit and journalists, however, an updated version of the 100 with a new engine wasn't going to cut it, as they expected it to do for the sales side of things, and to that end, a team led by J. Mays, not James May, came up with this beastie, the Avus Quattro. Named after the historic Berlin circuit where auto unions cars had achieved fame during their battles with Mercedes in the 1930s, the concept was intended to hark back to those glory days while previewing the production technologies that would be coming to Audis of the 90s and 2000s. The most immediately striking aspect of the Avus was its bare aluminum body, polished to a mirror finish and left unpainted to evoke both the silver arrows of the racing past and hint at the aerospace-inspired future of automotive design. This wasn't a mere styling exercise, however. The aluminum construction pointed towards Audi's development of lightweight materials that would later manifest in the production space frame that they've used for cars pretty much ever since. The body panels were ultra-thin hand-formed aluminum sheets, and by ultra-thin I'm talking like 1.5 millimeters, over an aluminum space frame, creating a structure that was both rigid and remarkably light for its size, and brought the total weight for the car to 1,250 kilograms or 2,756 pounds all in. Entry and egress was by scissor doors, natch at the concept car, and the red leather seats inside had a remarkable number of handles for easy carrying. Propulsion came from a centrally mounted 6-liter W12 engine producing a claimed 509 horsepower and fed air through the enormous rooftop NACA duct, reportedly the largest single NACA duct ever fitted to a road car or concept. Or at least the engine would have done that if it had actually been real. The engine in the concept itself was a mock-up constructed from wood, plastic, and paint, as they'd run out of time in developing the powertrain in the lead-up to the car's debut at the 1991 Tokyo Motor Show. Why they had to ship it all the way to Japan to show it off, I'm not sure. Nevertheless, had the engine been real, Audi quoted a target 0 to 62, or 0 to 100 kph time of 3 seconds and a top speed of approximately 211 miles an hour, or 334 kph. This theoretical power plant was actually quite significant, as it represented Audi's first public step towards developing the W configuration engines that would later appear in a large variety of Volkswagen Gruppe products. But it would take another decade before anybody could actually get their hands on a W12 engine in a road-going Audi or other VW, when the A8 W12 Quattro finally went on sale in 2001. In the Avus, power was directed to all 4 wheels through a 6-speed manual transmission and Quattro all-wheel drive, which by 1991 had firmly established itself as a hallmark of the Audi brand, both as a performance and safety advantage in their road cars and as the competition standard for, well, not just Audi, but pretty much all rally vehicles, unless you were Lancia and still kind of wanted to do things differently. But at that point, I think even they had given up and come out with the Delta Integrale. So, be that as it may. The car also featured 3 locking differentials, rear wheel steering, and double wishbone suspension on all 4 wheels, while stopping power came from ventilated disc brakes that were equipped with ABS, which was not common for the time, although not uncommon. I think Porsche put it on the 928 in 1988. The S-Classes has had it for a few years, so kind of expected. What makes the Avus particularly interesting as a potential Le Mans contender was its timing. At the time that it debuted, the sports car racing world was in a state of flux, which actually isn't that uncommon, with Group C's demise and the gradual shift towards GT-based competition that would prevail through the 1990s. Had Audi decided to develop the Avus for road-going use and then subsequently for racing, perhaps as a GT1 competitor later in the decade, they would have been entering motorsport probably right around the time that manufacturers like Mercedes-Benz and Porsche were developing specialized homologation nominal road cars for Le Mans, while Audi would have been joining McLaren in doing things properly and building a road car that then became a race car. We support this approach much more. The W12 engine, while impressive on paper, remained there for the time, and the development challenges that Volkswagen faced are the primary reason this car was first on the list. Had a working road-going W12 been developed in the early 90s, there still would have been significant additional development needed to withstand 24 hours of endurance racing. Had these problems been resolved, the use of a Quattro system then may also have been suspect in a competition version of the car, depending on the regulations of the class in which the car would be entered. I don't think GT1 allowed for anything but 2-wheel drive, but I could be wrong, don't quote me on that. Aerodynamically, the Avus featured a relatively clean design with a low nose, smooth underbody, and integrated, pretty minimal rear wing, again looking kind of like the Mercedes C112. While the concept's claimed top speed of 334 kph was probably a tad optimistic, its basic shape would have provided a solid foundation for the development of the more aggressive racing-specific aerodynamics that would be needed for high-speed stability as well as good downforce at Le Mans. Of course, the Avus Quattro never progressed beyond the concept stage, despite reported offers from prospective motor show buyers in the low 8-figure range. However, many of its technological underpinnings, particularly the aluminum construction techniques and aspects of the W12 engine concept, would eventually find their way into production Audi models. More significantly, the conceptual groundwork laid by the Avus arguably contributed, at least at a spiritual level, and I admit this is a bit of a reach, to Audi's decision to enter endurance racing later in the decade, which culminated in their dominant Le Mans performances with the R8 and subsequent diesel-powered prototypes, though of course these wore a less reflective gray-silver livery than something that would have blinded people in the noonday sun at La Sarthe.